Hi, everybody. My name is Bob Junkie. I'd like to start by welcoming you to our 15-minute webinar series. This particular webinar is designed to help you increase your team's sales by greater than 70%, and those numbers come from our clients with the email that I'll show you shortly. So let me walk you through today's agenda. I'd first like to give you a brief introduction to myself and Adventase. Then I'd like to review with you the outcomes that we have when a person conducts a solutions-based sales call. Those outcomes will then set the stage for what should go into the email that I'll review with you. We'll then finish up our brief webinar by reviewing the benefits that I'm confident you'll achieve, and I'll also share with you the results that our clients have achieved. So by way of quick introduction, I'm the founder and CEO of Adventase and also author of our best-selling book on sales management. We began Adventase in 2001 with the objective of helping our clients create a high-performance sales environment, and we do that through two vehicles. One is our holistic, top-driven sales and sales management methodology that we call Adventase Methods. The other, we've taken methodology and deployed it into a Salesforce-based app that we call the Adventase Sales Management System. So with that background behind us, let's dive into some of the specifics leading up to the email. When you think about a sales methodology, you can think about it providing salespeople with two key processes. One is how to conduct an effective solutions-based sales call. The other is then how to conduct an effective sales cycle. Let's first focus on the sales call. What we would want a salesperson to be able to do is identify a solution that a buyer needs to resolve a problem. Once they've done that, we would then want the salesperson to identify how the buyer's problem affects other people in the company. In so doing, we should also be in a position to identify the power level as it pertains to purchases that the buyer has that we've made this call on. And in fact, once we determine that, if we believe the buyer is below the power line, we will negotiate for access to power. If the buyer is above the power line, well, that buyer is in a position then to discuss and agree on the sequence of events that would lead to a buy decision. We'll be taking this right fork in the road: solution development, identify impacts, determine that the buyer is above the power line, and then agree to this sequence of events. That, in fact, sets the stage for the sales cycle. That sequence of events becomes the sales cycle. But you'll note that the sequence of events is designed into stages that in turn fit the way people want to be sold to. But let's go back now and focus on this solutions-based sales call. We're looking for three key outcomes. One, we want the salesperson to develop in the mind of a buyer the vision of a solution to a problem, also commonly referred to as identification of the buyer's pain. With that identification, we then want to also understand the causes for the pain, because a good salesperson will know that once they've identified the causes, they should be in a very good position to then identify the capabilities that the buyer needs to solve the problem. Those capabilities equate to the overall solution. The second thing that we want to be able to do is have a salesperson determine who the other key impacted buyers are. There's a great deal of interdependence between buyers based on their job functions, and determining this will determine the buying committee, whether it's ad hoc or formal, that we will also then have to call on. And then finally, we will in fact agree on the sequence of events. So those are the three outcomes that we're looking for in an effective call. And we're now going to take those three outcomes and design that email. So let's take a look at the email. Page 1. So we made a call on a gentleman named Ben, a VP of marketing, and the problem that he is having is summarized in the table. He has an inability to increase same-store revenues, and the salesperson has identified two causes, and he's also identified two capabilities. So that, in effect, represents the first part of the outcome of the sales call, a summarization of the solution that we've identified for the buyer. You'll also note that on this first page of the email, we've identified a couple of attachments that we want to walk the buyer through. One, the organizational impacts, and then two, that sequence of events. Let's first take a look at the organizational impacts. So you'll note that we called on the VP of Marketing, Benjamin Dover. What we also found, though, is that there are other people in the company who impact Ben's ability to achieve same-store growth objectives. One is the head of social media. The problem she's having is that they have a fragmented engagement strategy that they're deploying with their prospects. That in turn translates to the head of digital advertising being unable to achieve his revenue objectives from new sources. And in a sister organization, the head of CEO is unable to achieve the Google rankings that he or she is looking for. And those problems summate and impact Ben's ability to achieve those same-store growth objectives. In that conversation, what we also found out, although we may not need to call on the CEO of the company, but we did find out that Ben's difficulties and the difficulties of the people below him translate up to the CEO not achieving overall revenue objectives. In fact, they're a full 12% off. So the impact tree provides a visual to an ad hoc or formal buying committee, and it sets the stage not only for us to gain access to these other people, which not only gets them to buy into the solution that we're providing, but also has the effect of broadening the scope of the overall solution. But what it also does is increase the probability of the sale by getting buy-in all the way up the line. On to attachment 3, the sequence of events. You'll note in looking at this table that represents this sequence of events or action plan that in the left column we have our stages. These stages are specifically designed to help us set up an action plan that in turn is designed to align with our buyers. The whole idea is that as we go through this action plan, it is aligned with the way that people want to be sold to, so that at the end of the action plan, we are in an optimal position to mitigate buyer risk and get them to go ahead with us in this solution. Next, you'll notice the dates. And the idea is to take a look at the items that the sales organization has gone through in the past that have resulted in deals, and to look at the optimal dates, the optimal time frame through which you're able to execute those steps. For many clients, this has the impact overall of significantly reducing their average duration of a sales cycle. We've had clients who've come back to us and said that now, instead of having a 9-month sales cycle, our sales cycle is only a matter of 3 to 5 weeks. Pretty significant change. And aligned with those dates are the specific items that we would want to embark on by stage. And again, what we want is that by the end of the sales cycle, we want the buyer to say, gee, we've done all these things and we've done it confidently, we've done it well, and we have no reason not to buy. So this becomes a plan to help the buying committee buy from us. You'll also note the key decision column. You can view those as miniature closes. And if I count those up, let's see, there's 2, 4, 6, there's 7 of these key decision points. If you view them as miniature closes, we'd stop and mutually decide to proceed further at each one of these points with the buyer. There are many closes in that as we progress through the overall action plan, and complete these key decision points, the probability of the buyer saying, no, we're going to walk away from this one becomes less and less. The idea, again, being that if we've already had the buyer say yes 7 out of 8 times, when it comes to that 8th decision point, the probability of getting a yes and therefore getting the deal should be pretty high. So, there's our letter. I'd also like to point out that in the Advente sales management system, we've built the capability into it so that salespeople are able to actually generate these letters and even customize them in a matter of only minutes. And we believe, and we have proven with our clients, that this is a real benefit to salespeople, because in the past, if you didn't have an application like SMS, most salespeople, if they wrote these letters, did them as a one-off that could have taken 2, 3, even 4 hours to complete. But now with SMS, the salesperson is able to complete them, even customized, in a matter of only a couple of minutes, and get that letter sent out to the buyer, thus increasing the probability of the salesperson getting a letter to a buyer to begin with. So, the benefits. It's not uncommon for us at all to get calls from our clients where a salesperson has been told by their buyer, you understand us better than we do. And that, by the way, is particularly true when they see an impact tree. What a great compliment to a salesperson. Also, particularly in the early stages of an opportunity, when a buyer gets that sell cycle control email from your seller, they're able to use that as an internal selling vehicle, rather than them having to verbally, or even in their own email, try to explain all the great things that happen on the call. That email functions as a selling vehicle that can be sent to everybody on that impact tree. In so doing, this letter differentiates you from your competition, who likely won't even send one of these emails. I already mentioned the impact that these emails have on the reduction of the length of sales cycles. And also, what this email allows you to do is not just qualify continuously, but the majority of the qualification that you do is done up front, so that loser opportunities are disqualified very early on in the sales cycle, and the winner opportunities are the ones you end up staying with. And when you look at this from a sales management perspective, when it comes to pipeline management, forecast management, etc., these emails give a sales manager a great deal of predictability aligned with your opportunity stages to determine not just where the opportunity is, but again, where overall pipelines and forecasts are. And when you're working with the extended team, pre-sale support people, etc., these emails provide them with an excellent background on the salient points of the opportunity, thus helping your pre-sales people align with your needs and expectations to achieve the buyer's needs and expectations. So let's finish up by taking a look at the results some of our clients have gotten. TransUnion, as a result of this email, was able to win a $25 million deal. At SolidWorks, using their numbers, they were able to achieve product sale increases as high as 647%. At SunGard, they had deals that had been hanging out there for between 12 and 18 months, and once they put this email in place with that person above the power line, those deals closed in only 4 weeks. At Aldon, prior to launching into the use of these letters, less than 50% of their salespeople were on track to achieve quota. They finished the year with 88%. And back to SolidWorks, they found that even with their new salespeople selling their CAD product, that it was very common for the sell cycle, once they got the letter out there, to make 2 visits, do a demo, and they typically had a PO in 10 days. Not bad. And then the final one, a gentleman from Artemis was selling their enterprise-wide project management software to a very major aircraft manufacturer. And halfway through the sell cycle, a very key member of the buying committee left, and it put the whole thing in limbo. But what did Dwight do? Dwight took that cell cycle control email, he reviewed it with this key person's replacement. The key person saw the visions of solutions that they had come up with and how far they had gotten on the action plan, made it his own, and that deal, which was critical for them to close by year end, did in fact close before year end, and Dwight had a pretty nice check that year. So, hope you enjoyed today's webinar. If you have any further questions, please contact me directly. I would be most happy to have a conversation with you. Thank you and have a wonderful day.